Welcome everyone to our Wednesday, August 21st School Committee. And if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. And next up we have our approval of minutes of the July 24th, 2019 meeting. Motion by Mrs. Holbrook, second by Mr. Moreira. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. Very nice. Moving on. Correspondence recognition. We're going to start with our personnel update. Mrs. Gormley.
I feel so important being the first one on the I have two guests here tonight with me. We have hired Christine Richards, the coordinator of teaching and learning for the district. And Ms. Richards comes to us from the Franklin Public Schools, where she was a literary specialist for the past 11 years. And prior to that, she was a classroom teacher for 7. Ms. Richards has a bachelor's degree from Brandeis University in English and American Literature and a minor in elementary education, a master's degree from Framingham State in Literacy and Language, and just completed a second master's degree in Educational Administration from Endicott College. So I will invite Christine up to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here this evening. As Mary just said, I just finished an admin program through the MSAA in Endicott, and when I saw the posting for the job here in BR, I thought I'd hit the lottery, because an administrative position that solely deals with curriculum and instruction is kind of my dream. I've been very passionate about teaching and learning and spent the majority of my career watching powerful teachers impact students on a day-to-day basis, and I'm very excited that that can be the main focus of my job now, supporting the teachers here in BR. I've been here just about a month, and I've been able to meet with each of the building principals to kind of get a feel for what things are like here in BR, and I've been very impressed with the entire administrative team. Now I'm looking forward to students and teachers coming back so that we can get to the real work, and I'm excited to be planning a week-long residency in each school so that I can listen and learn more about what happens here before moving forward with helping everyone here improve. So thank you very much for having me here this evening.
I would just say, since Christine's been on, we've been very impressed with her entry plan that she detailed to Mr. Powers is outstanding. She's been meeting with the admin team. She's going to house herself in our buildings for like a residency for a few weeks at a time, really trying to work with our teachers, get inside the classrooms, help to do some embedded PD, some model lessons, and anything she could do to help move the district forward. So we're really appreciative of her passion, and her willingness to even be part of this year's convocation video. So thank you very much.
Wow. You got a late start on the video.
Congratulations, Kristen.
Welcome.
And she even came back the following day, which was great.
And our next special guest is Caitlin Morelli, the coordinator of family and student support. Ms. Morelli comes to us from the East Bridgewater Public Schools, where she was an IEP coordinator, language-based program teacher, and a special education teacher over the course of the past 6 years. Ms. Morelli has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in special education and communication disorders from Bridgewater State University, a master's degree in moderate disabilities from American International College, and a certificate of advanced graduate studies in education leadership, special education from Bridgewater State University. I'll invite Caitlin up to say a few words.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee, and Superintendent Swenson. I just want to thank Superintendent Swenson, Assistant Superintendent Powers, and the entire interview committee for this amazing opportunity to become part of the Bridgewater-Raynham School District. Since I began just a few weeks ago, everyone's been so welcoming and supportive, and I can't thank everyone enough for being so welcoming. The position of the Coordinator of Family and Student Services has such a variety of responsibilities, and I'm so eager and excited to get started and that have every day be something new and a new challenge ahead. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you. And Caitlin has hit the ground running as well, taking on a lot of those different roles, like we said. So we are very happy that she's here and look forward to working with her. And we even said that if Chartwells was shorthanded, we'd throw her in the calf too. So she was willing to do that. So thank you, Caitlin. Congratulations.
And I think I said this last month, but we are almost there. We've almost finished hiring. So the superintendent has made the following appointments and reassignments. Robert Ringett, interim assistant principal for Bridgewater-Raynham High School on a 1-year appointment. Kayla DePerry, reassignment from a phys ed teacher at BMS to a health teacher at Williams. Chuck McDonald, reassignment from a PE teacher at Williams to a PE teacher at BMS. Brenda Umbriana, reassignment from kindergarten to grade 1 at Merrill. Sean Petrosino, a newly appointed physical education teacher at BMS. Elizabeth Cummings, special education teacher at La Liberty. Barbara Moynihan, preschool teacher. And Kaylin Gallagher is also a new preschool teacher. Kim Fallon, district-wide nurse. And Aaron Yoyoki, part-time health education support professional. Emily Corey, proctor at Merrill and La Liberty. Kathy, sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Catherine of Peggy's, proctor at Williams. Casey Goodman, long-term substitute, kindergarten at Mitchell. Mary Kelly, long-term substitute, school psychologist at La Liberty. The superintendent has also accepted the following resignations. Elizabeth Russell, proctor at Williams. Andrea Devlin, school psychologist at Mitchell. Kristen Gilday, grade 1 teacher at Merrill. And Alexis Dixon, music teacher at Williams. And that concludes my report.
Was the resignations effective now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Could I just say also, with all of these appointments, the last 2 days, we've had our new educator orientation. And I know Mr. Powers is going to speak a little to that. But before we do, I just wanted to thank Mr. Powers for 2 days that were planned, outstanding activities and events for our new coming folks. And it was one of those deals where yesterday I felt a little old, but also even more proud because we were able to hire 2 of my former students who are now going to be teachers in the district. So I thought that was pretty cool. It should be shared with the committee. I'm very proud of those 2 individuals and that they've gone through our system, they've gone on to into the field of education, have come back to us here in Bridgewater-Raynham. So, Mr. Powers.
Sure. Mr. Powers, are we going to start with the administrative retreat and professional development?
Yes, we will. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the school committee, Superintendent Swenson. Madam Chair, if I may, I just, something not on the agenda, but I do want to extend a thank you to you and to the members of the school committee and to Mr. Swenson for supporting our 2 new coordinators. Really, they have hit the ground running, as Mr. Swenson said. It's been very fulfilling for myself, and I know in speaking to Mr. Jovelos, we've kind of been sharing stories behind the scenes about how happy and excited we are to be working with them and how much they've really already accomplished in the short time that they've been here. I know it's something that we've talked about and advocated for a number of years and just wasn't necessarily able to support through the budget, but you finally we're able to, and so I just wanted to start by saying thank you, because I do think at the end of the day, the kids are truly going to benefit, the students and families, and obviously our staff is truly going to benefit, so thank you. But I do want to share, obviously, that last week in July, first week in August, we did have our administrative retreat where all of our building-based administrators, principals, assistant principals, and our central office administrators came together for really a week-long retreat, although we were informed by Mrs. Kirk that we should not refer to it as a retreat because there was no massages and no manicures and pedicures. So we're going to have to come up with a new name next year. But it was a great week nonetheless. We started off, Mr. Joe Velos and Ms. Medeiros from Student Services led a crisis prevention intervention training, which is really de-escalation training for our students that may be dysregulated or certainly in a heightened state. Obviously, part of that is the restraint, if necessary. So they let our administrators and other staff, we had teaching staff, volunteer come in on their own time during the summer to go through that. So that was Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, we actually brought in the Youth Mental Health First Aid Organization to conduct really a first aid, mental health first aid for administrators. If you think of it, to kind of equate it in terms of, your typical first aid, if someone's injured, kind of how to triage and then obviously get them the help they need. This training really is focused around mental health and recognizing signs and symptoms of students and possibly even adults struggling, mentally within mental health, behavioral health. Not so much being a clinician in terms of, counseling that person, but knowing, again, recognizing those signs and symptoms, and then being able to refer them to the appropriate people. So certainly very, very powerful. On Thursday, we started our day with a legal update from our legal counsel, Mary Ellen Swarter. We have her come in every year, and obviously everything she has to share is always so important and relevant for us as building administrators. But then after that, we also had members from the Plymouth County Juvenile Court come in, and they gave a presentation for our administrators in terms of working with them. If we do have students that we're concerned about, whether it be truancy or habitual school offenders, the proper policies, procedures, and protocols to involve the courts. So they shared their wisdom with the administrators, which is great. And I know Ms. Morelli obviously going to be working closely with our juvenile probation department in her role, and has already reached out to Bristol County, because as you know, we operate within 2 counties. So we're really going to make sure that we are a resource and that the courts can be a resource for our families as well. And then on Friday morning, Thursday afternoon, we did have a little bit of team building. We brought all our administrators together for some climate and culture activities, which was very, very enjoyable. I think our people hopefully enjoyed it. They all came back on Friday, so that showed me that they did. And then Friday morning, we had our true first administrative council meeting, certainly led by Mr. Swenson, where we talk about the nuts and bolts of operating our schools, what's to come for the upcoming year, and share any relevant information that they need to know from all the central office departments. And then we did have a follow-up training with Mary Ellen Swarter after that to talk about residency. That was one thing we just kind of ran short on time, but we did want to get her expertise and guidance on residency issues, making sure that we're following, our state and local regulations, and again, working with families to be more supportive to them around residency. We did have this week new teacher orientation, new staff orientation as we call it, because some of our staff members that we've hired are not new to the profession, but they just may be new to the district. So we welcomed them in yesterday morning. We had an opening meeting with them where members of central office kind of shared some words of wisdom and expertise with them. Certainly Mr. Swenson was a great big part of that, and shared his expectations for the new teachers, and really set the bar high for them coming in and wanting the best for all of our students, which is great. And I think they appreciated that. We were able to, thankfully, but with the support of Lucini, take our new staff members on a bus tour of the district. We toured all 3 sites, really actually all 4 sites. We did go to the old Mitchell School, so we toured all 4 sites in the town of Bridgewater and all 3 schools over in the town of Raynham. We did point out some famous landmarks along the way, and tried to point out also some places maybe they would want to.
Yes. She called it Coletti's.
Coletti's, very important. Coletti's. We had to point out Coletti's. Yes, the four-way stop signs, Letty's, those are the two big highlights of Raynham. So we did share that. They did come back afterwards to have a luncheon with the Teachers Association. So thank you to BREA for hosting them. And we welcomed them back this morning. They went through educator evaluation training. As you know, that's part of a requirement for all new staff members to go through that training. Through DESE. So we contracted with Rebus Associates, Carol Gregory, who's come out every year to do that training for us, came back. So she spent the morning with our new staff. Mr. Swenson and I then led a training this afternoon in our emergency response procedures. So we actually gave them information about Alice. We were in here for probably about an hour and a half. Just putting them through a presentation, discussion. We did have Captain Tom Schlatz from the Bridgewater Police Department, as well as Detective Lou Pacheco from the Raynham Police Department here with us. And we just, tried to really prepare them. Obviously, we told them that majority of the training would occur at the buildings, at staff meetings with law enforcement, but we wanted them to at least have some knowledge and empowerment before they started the school year. We spent our last hour probably putting them through different scenarios. We talked about transitioning away from the traditional traditional lockdown to more of a lockdown and barricade approach where we're really securing our classrooms. We worked on evacuating the building. We actually put them through evacuation scenarios. So it was a very, I think, meaningful training. We got great feedback from Captain Schlatz, who stayed throughout, and certainly Detective Pacheco had to step out, but he even called me after the fact just to see how it went and share his words of wisdom. But we got some great feedback from our new staff, which is great, so I'm glad we incorporated that this year as part of new teacher orientation. And as you know, next week we have professional development on Tuesday the 27th. We start in the morning with convocation, just to kind of give you an update on those times. I'm sure you're familiar, but we did make some slight changes this year. From 8 to 8:30, we will be serving light refreshments and welcoming everybody back. At 8:30, there will be a BREA membership meeting. And then at 8:45, Mr. Swenson and the other administrators will enter the auditorium and start the official convocation program. I am excited to share with you that Commissioner Jeff Riley, the Commissioner of Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, will be joining us this year for convocation. I would like to say it's because he heard about the videos, but that is not the case. Mr. Swenson and I had the opportunity to reach out to him after hearing him speak several times. We thought he was just very inspiring and engaging, and so I reached out to the department, and his schedule was free, so he'd be happy to attend. So he will be here Tuesday morning. He'll be here to join us and again, share some words of wisdom for the staff. And then obviously our staff members will be going back to their buildings for building-based meetings on Wednesday, and I shared with you some of our professional development offerings. Our teachers will engage in, we'll have a motivational speaker on Wednesday morning. In the afternoon, they'll engage in common planning. On Thursday morning, we have some social emotional training going on here at the high school for our high school staff, and then we also have DESE coming out to lead us in their Safe Schools program, which is focused on creating safe environments and supporting our LGBTQ community. And then in the afternoon, majority of the staff will go to Power School training. We do have some variances here or there. For example, we're offering CPR training to our preschool staff. So. But for the most part, our groups will move in large cohorts like that. And as you know, we typically have 3 professional development days, but due to our calendar this year, we'll have the 3rd day in March on the presidential primary. And that concludes my admin retreat and professional development report.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Powell? Any comments, Mr. Swenson?
Again, just have done it in the past as the assistant superintendent. There's a lot of work that goes into the admin retreat. Again, I'm going to have to work on that word retreat, I guess, moving forward, but also professional development week. And I can't say enough about what Mr. Powers puts together in terms of these events for us and these trainings. And the new teacher orientation or new staff orientation the last few days. I can't say enough about that, what Mr. Powers put together and put together today for our staff. So thank you, Mr. Powers, for all of your endless hours of work and dedication to these events. And I know that these are things that help unify our administrative team, and with professional development, help to move our district forward. So thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you for allowing me to do it.
All right, moving on to Student Success Action Plan presentation. Mr.
Yes, thank you,
Powell.
Madam Chair. As part of your school committee packet this evening, you do have a student success plan packet. Within that packet is our student success plan, which you've obviously seen and approved before, so thank you. But I did want to share with you, as I explained before, part of the process, we created our strategic objectives, we then created our strategic initiatives, and now we have to act upon them. So that's what we really spent the summer doing as an administrative team. Again, gathering input from our administrators. We created action plans for each one of our pillars. You will see in your plan, the second page of your plan is highlighted in green. Again, those I shared with you before, but those are the initiatives that we will be working on. So then, as a result of that, we created action plans for each pillar in terms of how we're going to accomplish those initiatives, or at least begin to work on those initiatives. So you should have 4 additional pages, and they are labeled action plan, and you'll see an action plan for each area. So you have an action plan for safe and supportive schools, an action plan for curriculum and instruction, an action plan for technology, and then an action plan for facilities. And obviously some estimated timelines about what we, when we hope to accomplish, and you also have what we hope to accomplish, some early evidence of change or implementation, and then some resources that we may need. Now you'll notice both under resources, we included personnel, because we, for example, our Safe and Supportive Schools pillar, we're going to tap into our SEL committee. Under curriculum instruction, obviously we have our coordinator of teaching and learning. So some of it's existing personnel that we already have, but then also we tried to identify, will it be funded by grants? Could it be funded by operational budget? That also helps. As you know, Mr. Swenson built his budget last year based on the student success plan, so we wanted to be able to identify areas that we might need to tap into the budget, especially if we're going to be creating budgets in the future that are built around our student success plan. Really tonight is more just informational. I just wanted you to see what we're working on. Certainly happy to take any comments, suggestions, feedback, and you can see they're still in draft form. My intent is to present final copies to the staff on Tuesday next week, so they are aware. We've obviously, Mr. Swenson and I went on kind of a student success plan tour and tried to get to every school. There were, I think, 2 that we didn't get to, but I know the principals were going to share this information. So, but again, because it's a new year, we wanted to kind of refresh everything and let them know where we're at. So really more informational for you. But again, like I said, I'm happy to take any feedback, suggestions for change.
Any questions for Mr. Powers? Sure, Mrs. Holbrook.
Mr. Powers, will the teacher's evaluation, their goals also be based off of this?
Great question. Thank you, Ms. Holbrook. Short answer, yes and no. But yes, what we really want everything to be is tied together so that it really, whether we start with the teachers or start with Mr. Swenson, Mr. Swenson's goals more than likely will be tied to this, as will mine, as will trickle down to the building principals, and then obviously the teachers. But yes, if we start with the teachers and working our way up, ultimately we would like at least one of their goals, if not both of their goals, to be tied into some element of the plan. That would be the hope. There are certain exceptions that we're always willing to explore and take, but yes, that is our hope, that teachers will see the value in this and create one of their goals, if not both, around the students.
And this morning at our admin council, we were talking about my goals being based upon the student success plan, and I encouraged strongly to our admin team that they adopt the same goals of the initiatives within the individual pillars, and then when they are meeting with their individual teachers who are on their evaluation lists, to encourage them to have those goals, so that if we are all having, as you're saying, Ms. Holbrook, the same goals, then we are going to be able to move forward those initiatives within those pillars. So really, truly, it has to be kind of whether you view it as a top-down with my goals or from bottom-up type model. So yes, I think we all kind of need to be on that same track to make sure that we have that same mission and vision in order to accomplish these initiatives within this school year.
Any other questions for Mr. Powers? Any comments, Mr. Swenson?
No, again, thank you to Mr. Powers for all the work that he's done with this and the entire administrative team. Like Mr. Powers said, this has been a main focus of our summer, putting these action plans together so that we can hit the ground running next week. I was going to say when we come back, but it is next week. So, and again, we will share this information with our faculty and staff once they return next Tuesday.
And you did also meet with the Long Range Planning Committee, who looked at this plan and hopefully will be voting as a full committee in September on your goals, the superintendent goals for the upcoming year.
Correct.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
We are going to move on to our administrative and school committee reports. We're going to start with our budget subcommittee update, and we're going to ask Mr. Dolan to do that this month.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met on Tuesday, August 13th at 6:30 at the Academy Building here in Bridgewater. Susan, Lil, and myself were in attendance. We have 3 items for action tonight in the form of a motion to transfer $807 from E&D for a timesheet from the 2018-2019 school year. That's the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dolan, second by Mrs. Holbrook. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted, thank you.
Also in the form of a motion to enter into a contract with a company called Core Business Technologies of East Providence, Rhode Island for 3 years for printer services. The monthly contract cost is $3,073, with a total savings at the end of the contract of $3,600 from what we have now. The contract includes laser cartridges, labor, parts, and software monitoring.
Motion by Mr. Dolan, second by Mr. Florence. At your recommendation, Mr.
Yes, Madam
Swenson?
Chair.
And this, because it's a 3-year contract, this does require approval by the
Correct.
school committee. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you.
And the last item is declaration of surplus. Mr. Shantz brought to us a request for 40 iPads to be declared as surplus as they're no longer working. He assures us that they will be recycled appropriately.
Motion by Mr. Dolan, second by Mr. Marrera. Any discussion, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. All right.
Finally,
I'm sorry.
just a little note. Finally, just after we met as a budget subcommittee, we met with the Bridgewater Town Council, Budget and Finance Committee, the Bridgewater Finance Committee, and the Raynham Finance Committee as well, to continue our open discussions on the budget process. We'll be meeting with those committees again on September 17th following our budget session.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Dolan.
Mr. Dolan, where will that meeting take place?
The Bridgewater Academy Building.
We'll have to make sure that we have the right date for that, because we have changed.
Oh, that's right. We did move that.
So I just didn't know what, I didn't want
Yeah.
to.
Nope, that's right.
Let me get my high-tech calendar out. We changed that, I believe, to September 10th.
Yes.
Budget at 6:30 and the joint meeting at 7:30.
No, that's my fault. I forgot we moved it.
Okay, so next up, we will have the Mitchell School Building Project update. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not as much has changed since last month because we're kind of in a holding pattern right now until next Wednesday when I will be going up to MSBA, which I'll detail in a little bit. But the School Building Committee did meet on Monday, July 8th, 2019 in the Town Council Chambers of the Academy Building in Bridgewater at 6:30 p.m. The purpose of this meeting was to thoroughly examine and vote upon the 132,000 square foot new construction schematic design and the overall project budget of $80,600,000 for the tentative Mitchell School project. Please note that this project budget does include the $800,000 that was appropriated for the feasibility study. After a comprehensive discussion, the School Building Committee unanimously voted to submit the schematic design and project budget to the MSBA on Wednesday, July 10th, 2019 for their approval at their Wednesday, August 28th, 2019 board meeting. If the George Mitchell Elementary School schematic design is ratified by the MSBA board in August, next week, which is next Wednesday, the Bridgewater Town Council will then vote to have it as a ballot question for a special town election sometime in October of 2019. Just a reminder that all school building committee meetings are open to the public and that community members are encouraged to attend and provide feedback and input. As always, additional George H. Mitchell Elementary School project and MSBA information updates can be found at www.bridgewaterschoolproject.com. And next Wednesday, I will be in attendance at that board meeting at MSBA, and hopefully I will have good news to bring back to our September meeting.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have our Facilities Department report, Mr. Pacheco.
Good evening, Madam Chair, School Committee, Superintendent Swenson, Assistant Powers. Custodial restoration in all district buildings have been completed. Custodial night shift will resume on 8/26/19, and we will be ready for a school opening. Annual life safety testing, police, fire, and building official inspections have been completed in all district buildings. The Mitchell gym floor has been repaired. Lines have been painted, sealed, finished, and have been completed. Wall padding is scheduled for install the last week of August and should be ready for a school opening. Bleacher installs remain scheduled for December. We're trying to push that date up as well. Outstanding repairs to our air conditioning and ventilation systems here at the high school are underway, should be completed by the beginning of September. District-wide HVAC preventative maintenance is underway and should be completed by the heating season. Final HVAC control system functional checks will be completed at the beginning of the heating season. Any concerns will be presented, as well as final quotes for supporting information for boiler replacements at Merrill and La Liberté schools. So as we enter the school year, I'll be conducting monthly meetings with head custodians, providing a clear, proactive approach, increasing mechanical room checks during normal shift hours, rewriting weekend building check forms, and prompt reporting of concerns to our maintenance team. I will reintroduce the bi-monthly walkthroughs with principals identifying concerns while encouraging the usage of our school due work request system. Utilizing our maintenance request system will provide accountability, documentation, and the communication needed to effectively plan and present immediate and long-term needs of, at both weekly management and monthly school committee meetings. That concludes my facilities report.
Yeah, thank you. And just thank you to, again, another individual who has hit the ground running. We've had a lot of new faces to central office, but Mr. Pacheco has done an outstanding job. We meet quite often. We have talked about, again, him taking that proactive approach, working with the building principals, doing those bi-monthly walkthroughs, which are so important to be to identify those issues proactively so that we don't always have to take a reactive approach to our break fix. So Mr. Pacheco shares that lens that I have in terms of that proactive sense of urgency, and I truly appreciate that and the job that he's done thus far. So thank you.
Very welcome.
Madam Chair, if I could, Mr. Pacheco, real quick. Sorry, you had mentioned the Mitchell School gym floor.
Yes, sir.
To be clear, that's the Mitchell at the middle.
Mitchell at the middle, yeah. Still having a hard time with that one.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure for everybody's sake, we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. And you're all welcome to come by and take a look at it. It looks pretty good.
It looks great. Great job.
Very good. Moving on now to unfinished business. Policy Subcommittee report, Mrs. Holbrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Policy Subcommittee met on Wednesday, August 14th at 6:00 p.m. in the Superintendent's Conference Room. The following members were present: Mrs. King, Mr. Florence, and myself. The following committee member was absent: Mr. Morelli. At the meeting, a motion was made to bring policy IJNDD to the full school committee for a second reading and in hopes of approval with the suggested edits. This policy does require 2 readings. The first reading of policy IJNDD was presented to the school committee at its July 24th meeting. Since that time, several edits have been proposed. If approved at tonight's meeting, a reference to the policy will be added to the student and staff handbooks. After recommendations by the school committee at our last meeting and recommendations by the administration team, edits to the policy were made. And before I go over the changes to this policy, I'd just like to remind the committee that this policy does mirror the existing one. The only difference is that we went into more detail with this policy. The policy subcommittee revisited policy IJNDD, which is a policy on the electronic and social networking websites. In your packet tonight, you received a student handbook form that every student in the district must sign and return to school. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Shanstown, our technology guru, to go over the changes that are being made in the policy.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Swenson, members of the school committee. One change that we made in the policy had to do with photos of specific students. It was section M, 2M, and that section was removed and edited. And I will read the new edited version. To enhance our students' experience and further communication within our community, there's the potential for your child to be videotaped or photographed by either district personnel or the news media during classroom activities or events. The picture or videos may be posted to the district's website and or shared by other social media outlets. If you do not grant permission for your child to be included in the public broadcast of video or video yearbooks and for publishing photographs in newspapers, school newsletters, or district publications or social media outlets, including but not limited to the BR Buzz, send a signed letter with your request to the main office. So to summarize that, our goal is to respect student data privacy. If a parent does not want a photograph of their student in any social media website, our principals will be notified, and those principals will notify the teachers, and we will respect that. Second edit was on page 1. The second paragraph of the introduction, PTO, will be removed. We decided to remove that because that was included in the first section. So, and then the last edit, letter O of the policy will remain. I guess at this time I'll open it up for questions.
I just have a brief comment on the backup to the photos, and I certainly understand that we will do the best of our ability not to put anything on our websites or social media, but we wouldn't be able to prevent other children from taking photos of children. Like, I think the parents would have to understand that if I take a picture of Kevin and put it on my social media, that's not the district doing that. That's me as an individual. So I agree completely with the signature because I understand the parents want their privacy, but we can't control what happens.
Exactly.
Unofficial.
This policy covers social media outlets that are represented by the district. We have no control over
So I just
the
hope that
enterprise or any
everybody
news
understands that.
media
We're doing the
outlets.
best we can within our means to prevent that as possible, but these kids with phones. That was my only comment.
Mr. Shantz, one other slight edit. When we have that letter that's being sent home with the parent, to the parents, and could we have that read, send a signed letter with your request to your student's main office, student school main office, instead of just the main office, because they won't know, like, what main office are you talking about?
Okay.
So, just
We'll
adding
be
that.
more specific on that point.
Yes, they could,
Send it to Derek.
exactly.
And that was actually brought up today by the building principals.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Shantz.
Thank you.
Okay, so the subcommittee thoroughly reviewed this policy, had much discussion, and made multiple changes to the policy. Again, I'd like to reiterate that much of this policy was taken with the permission from the Braintree Public Schools. Mrs. McDougall did contact Braintree Public Schools to get permission to use this policy. So, in the form of a motion, I would like to make a motion to approve the changes to policy IJNDD, electronic and social networking websites.
Motion by Mrs. Holbrook, second by Mrs. King. Any further discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
And next up, we have our new business, approval of payroll warrants August 1, 2019 and August 15, 2019. Motion by Mr. Morera, second by Mr. Florence. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Next up, we have approval of general ledger warrants August 1, 2019 and August 15, 2019. Motion by Mr. Morera, second by Mr. Florence. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. Very good. And now we have a vote to adopt the Student Success Plan.
So moved.
Did we want to do that?
Yes.
I thought it was
We'll do-
okay.
I would prefer you, I don't believe we need.
We don't need a-
approve the plan, I would just, change the action plan, but certainly
Why not? It's on the agenda. Let's go for it.
Nice one.
Motion by Mr. Dolan, second by Mrs. Holbrook. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Very good. And next up, we have the vote to authorize the district to incur debt for the Mitchell Demolition Project. And I'm going to read the vote. Voted that the Bridgewater-Raynham Regional School District hereby appropriates the amount of $80,600,000 for the purpose of paying costs of demolition of the current Mitchell Elementary School located at 500 South Street and the construction of a new school located on the same site, in parentheses, the project, which school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children of at least 50 years, and for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Said amount to be expended at the direction of the School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the district is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 71, Section 16D of the General Laws and the District Agreement as amended, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The district acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA. Any project cost the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the district. Provided further that any grant that the district may receive from the MSBA shall not exceed the lesser of 1/59 and 28/100% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the district and the MSBA. Further voted that within 7 days from the date on which this vote is adopted, the secretary be and hereby is instructed to notify the town manager of the town of Bridgewater as to the amount and general purposes of the debt herein authorized as required by the district agreement and by Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws. Motion for all that. Motion.
So,
We
Madam
had to
Chair,
two
if I
separate
could, as
votes,
a-
right?
Oh,
Raynham does not. Raynham doesn't need to be on the vote. They felt because it was a regional situation, but I handled, no, it's okay. I handled that with legal the other day. I explained that it's not, it's solely the town of Bridgewater's vote. No worries.
Madam Chair, I believe we need to vote each one individually.
So you can say the
Sorry.
I not
first.
asked that.
Further
All
voted.
right,
Yeah.
so let's go, I'm not going to read that all
The
again.
first,
Right,
the
no,
first,
no,
vote, the first.
So moved, the first vote.
So move the first vote. Motion by Mr. Dolan, second by Mrs. Holbrook. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. And then move the further
this-
voted. Motion
this-
by Mr.
yes.
Dolan, second by Mrs. Holbrook. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. Very good. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. And now we're already up to public comment. Anyone out there wish to speak? All right, very good. Any comments from the committee? Any announcements? All right, very good. With that, we will have a motion to adjourn at 7:45. Motion by Mr. Moreira, second by Mr. Florence. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.